What's up, y'all? This is Grant James here. Today I have a special treat for you. I was able to do an interview with one of my favorite people, mentors, heroes, and his name is Robert Holley. Now, for those of you that don't know Rob, he is kind of the original famous foreigner in Korea. He speaks Korean really well. He actually uses something called the Gyeongsangdo dialect. So he speaks with like kind of a cool vibe that people think is really funny. He's also really well known just for being kind of like a gag man, like being a comedian, and he has awesome delivery and understanding of what Koreans think is funny. So anyway, I reached out to Rob a little bit ago, and he agreed to do an interview with me via Zoom, and we talk about a lot of things. One of the things that is probably very special about this interview is it's actually the first time that Rob has talked about his arrest. About a year ago, he was arrested for drug-related charges, and it's had a huge impact on his career, his life, and those types of things. So Rob was kind enough to open up to me and talk about what that experience has been like. And this is actually the first time he's ever talked about this, period. He's not allowed to be on TV right now, and there's some of those types of things going on. And so we kind of talk about that rehabilitation process, what that's like, and get into some pretty cool details. So I really appreciated Rob talking with me. But I've broken this up. It was about an hour and a half long interview. And so I've broken it up into about 48 minutes. And it is in 6 different sections. So if you don't want to watch the entire thing, that's totally cool. You can kind of jump around. I definitely recommend watching at least the first part, which has to do with his arrest and understanding his story, because I think that is helpful. But first I talk about his arrest. Then after that, we talk about life on TV. So what it's like actually being a foreigner on Korean television and that whole process, how he got into it, his story. And he actually shares some like super funny stories in there about just some of the funny things that he said and things that Koreans think are really funny. The third thing that we get into is Korean language. So tips for if you want to learn Korean and get better at that. And a lot of people who watch my channel have some interest in Korean and learning Korean or music or those types of things. He has some really good suggestions about how to use things like mimicry to improve your language skills. And that's kind of how he picked up the Gyeongsangdo dialect and got really good at stuff that you wouldn't really learn other than just getting out there and doing it. The fourth thing we talk about is business. Rob he's a lawyer. He's good at lots of different things. And so we talk about making money on television, advertisements, and even his school that he has in Gwangju, which is an international school. And we kind of talk about some of those things. The fifth thing we talk about, we have a short part where we talk about some of his favorites, favorite food, favorite places to go, and those types of things. And then the last thing that we talk about is actually YouTube. During the interview, I asked him if he had any interest in doing YouTube. And he expressed to me that, yeah, he did, especially since he can't do much on television right now. A lot of people have been kind of encouraging him to get on YouTube and do those types of things. And so we kind of get into that and talk about that. But I hope you enjoy the interview. I learned a ton from it. Feel free to kind of jump around and find parts that you like. If you would, please leave some comments below. Try to support Rob if you can, and encourage him to do YouTube and, to be strong through kind of some of these trying times. But I really appreciate Rob for talking with me, and I hope that you guys enjoy this kind of exclusive interview.
Now it's been over a year since I was arrested, so
yeah.
I didn't want to use that word. Here.
I want you to know, just from a personal level, I respect the heck out of you. And I think that you are a light to Korea, a light to missionaries, a light to so many different people. What you've been able to do, your personality, your humor, the way you connect with people. You've always been just such an amazing respectable person. And regardless of like whatever, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, and I hope that more people can just get there and understand that it's part of being human. If you want to list everything that anyone's ever done, like, great. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Sure.
But
I appreciate that. And, I have that happen all the time. When this first came out, my wife would say, and I was really undergoing great depression at the time. I mean, you can imagine what it's like with your name, being thrown to the wolves all of a sudden and having to go out in public. And now I just walk everywhere and do everything. But at the first couple of months, it was really hard. My wife would take me out, would put on the masks and the hats and sunglasses and everything, and people would meet me, would climb this mountain behind my home, and they'd say, "Oh, hello, Mr. Holley. Unwanamida," meaning,
support you.
I'm with you. I'm rooting for you, something like that. So I figured out that was in just the other day. I went to a doctor's office and came out on the street afterwards, and this woman on the street, and of course I had my mask on. She goes, "Robert Holley, I'm your biggest fan from Busan. I'm from Busan too." And she goes, "Come back on TV. We need you." She goes, "I don't care. Come back on TV. We need you." And so I hear this every day. I have people hugging me on the street, and I'm saying, "Don't hug me. I don't want coronavirus, please." And they're hugging me on the street and saying, "Oh, hey, I went on that." Yes, it was a very difficult year for me. There are a lot of things that we can't control in life. And one of the things we can't control is who we meet. We can control our reactions. And I thought I was really good at controlling the way I would react, the way I would act in certain situations. I always thought that I was really, really, a good guy. And this was all growing up. I thought I was the best guy around. I would never do anything wrong. But, we always talk about, getting with the wrong crowd of people. And I thought all the people around me were really good people. And in the end, they were not. And I ended up getting in trouble for doing something that I thought I would never, ever do. I mean, growing up, one of my closest friends was smoking pot and something, and of course, he would never encourage me to do that. We were close friends growing up, and he would never encourage me to do that. We were, of course, in the same church, and my dad was bishop, and his dad was in the bishopric, but I knew he was doing that, and I knew he had it, and I knew he would smoke it, but I would never do something like that. But I got involved in the wrong kind of, meeting the wrong kind of people. And I don't think now, when I look back on it, I don't think anyone that does those type of things is necessarily bad. Mm-hmm. But when we do something bad in life, it's usually not because we want to, but because someone encourages us to do it. And it was the same way with me, where I was staying, I could not sleep at night. I was having sleeping problems. I would wake up every hour. And so I'd end up going in with tape a 6-hour TV show. It takes a 1-hour TV show, but it takes 6 hours to tape it. So you have to sit down with probably 25 other stars and take turns talking and be at your top form, whatever, for those 6 hours, and be able to say things, funny. And I would be sitting in there and I'd be falling asleep. And I met someone who said, "Hey, I've got something that will make you stay awake and you'll be more funny." I said, "No." And that was actually what happened. And I did stay awake. Caused a whole lot of other problems in my life. But I'm glad I was caught when I was, and I'm glad I have a lot of people who are there to support me. A lot of church members, my wife and my family. And there were a lot of things associated with that incident, untrue rumors that spread about me on the paper that were completely unfounded, and nothing I can do. I was helpless at the time.
Have you had an opportunity to express yourself to the media about your story?
This is actually my first interview with anyone about this. I've had little short snippets here and there, but I haven't, as of yet, really expressed myself. Yeah. I've become heavily involved with the anti-drug coalition in Korea, and I go to NA meetings a lot. Now, my wife doesn't like me going to NA meetings because she thinks I'm going to find someone who's going to encourage me to engage in illicit behavior there. But that's not what those meetings are. We go into these meetings and everyone uses a fake name. Of course, I know some of the people's names. They all use a fake name, and you're not supposed to give out your phone numbers.
But you're the one guy it wouldn't matter for. All you can say
everyone knows my name. So I use my real name in the meeting, but everyone else doesn't. Actually, when new members come in NA meeting, if they don't know, they'll say their name, and everyone says, "No, don't do that. Say something else." And you go to these meetings, and all these people are just normal people. They're not like, when you see AA meetings on television, there are people who are sitting there smoking, and they all look like they're the biggest druggies you've ever met, they're still drunk. But AA meetings are important.
So part of what I struggle with is, yeah, that stuff's a big deal, but I feel like it's blown up a lot more in Korea than it is over here.
Yes. For me, it's blown up because of my own situation and being, a father of a family and always portraying the, guy next door. And so Koreans woke up and the guy next door had done this.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're on TV and you're in those social circles. It's like the most common social circles of all time. I don't get. To me, it seems like you were in some ways like targeted. To me, you know what I mean?
I think though in Korea the problem is they send a lot of these people to jail, and a lot of these people need help overcoming their own problems rather than being sent to jail where they'll learn just to do it again. The sellers, send them to jail. I don't care about the sellers. But the people who have used illicit drugs or whatever, illegal drugs, I think they need to be sent to rehab. Korea does not have any really good rehab places. But if people know that they can overcome these addictions, then I think the citizenry also needs, the citizens of Korea and throughout the world all need to know that people like drug abusers need to be helped rather than thrown out of society, put in jail.
I read some of the different articles and stuff as it was happening. Because actually right before that was when I asked you to help me with my Korean pronunciation stuff.
Yeah.
And then you hadn't really responded much, and then I see this stuff in the news. I was like, "Oh gosh, man, this is just." But I think what a lot of people don't realize is Utah is actually, where I live in Utah, is actually one of the places that helps with recovery more than any place in the world. And I see how Korea and Koreans kind of handled stuff in general. And it's like, I don't know. Anyway. So I guess I'll kind of along with that, like, do you see yourself kind of getting accepted back into the community and being able to do more shows and stuff, or has it just been really stark for you?
In Korea, under Korean law, I'm not sure if it's under Korean law. The networks have prohibited me from being on the network for a certain period of time. Okay. But there are so many big stars who have been involved in drugs and other things.
You just have like a certain time period you have to wait or something like that then?
Usually it's the time of probation or something, usually a year or two. For certain networks, they'll let it go for a year.
Okay, so that was the part where we talked about his arrest and what that process was like. Now we're going to get into life on TV. How did that happen? Like, how did you go from lawyer Robert Holley, 연세대학에서 나오셨죠? 맞아요?
연세대학교 학교에서 1년 정도 한 학기
아, okay.
이거 한 학기를 공부했죠.
Mm.
근데 I went back to America
Yeah.
and finished law school, finished college, finished law school, and became a member of the West Virginia Bar.
Okay.
And then I got a job with an international law firm in Seoul. Before that, I came as a law clerk and clerk for a big firm in Seoul, and then really got lucky coming over to Korea and getting a good job with a huge famous national law firm.
So
that was it.
So how did you make that leap from like I'm a lawyer to, was it just people saw you and you're really good at Korean and pretty funny and they're like, here you go, TV, or how did that happen?
It wasn't something that I was aiming at.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of the quiet guy.
Yeah.
Family, I'm the loudest guy in the world. At home, my father always used to tell me, when I was younger, he would tell me to be quiet. Neighbors can hear you. But so I was really loud at home, and I was loud with my friends. But at school, I was a quiet introvert type of guy, I guess.
Yeah.
But when I was working in Busan as a lawyer, our office was right next door to Busan MBC. So MBC is major networks in Korea.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was one of two major networks in Korea. So I met some of the people that worked there on the street, in places where we would be eating lunch, and so they knew me.
Yeah.
I could speak Korean with the Busan dialect, and so so I was working there and met these people at lunchtime. They knew I could speak Korean. What happened was in 1995, a new network was formed in Seoul. SBS was formed in 1994, actually. And in 1995, all its subsidiaries were formed in Daegu and Busan and Gwangju. And in Busan, it was known as PSB. PSB is not a network anymore. It's called KNN now. But PSB was formed, and so a lot of the employees of Busan MC went over to PSB to start that network. And they got jobs, and I was called in all of a sudden by someone that knew me. And they asked me if I would agree to appear on a morning show. They said, it's maybe 8 or,
So, like, how good was your, like, 그 당시에 한국말 진짜 잘하시는 것이었어요? 아니면, like, when did you really?
Well, I'm not one to judge my own Korean.
Sure.
I spoke a lot of dialect in Busan. And I go, 반갑습니다.
Yeah.
Things like 잘 지내셨어요. Things like that.
So in the Busan dialect, do you just add like yeah at the end instead of yo?
No.
Okay.
No, actually, yeah is more of a Daegu dialect.
Okay.
So Busan is more of a loud where they go up and down.
Like 뭐하노? 우리 갈 기가 뭐 그런 것들, right? Yeah.
뭐하노?
Yeah.
어디 가노?
Yeah.
So they use those, and actually in Busan, they'll say like 잘 있었습니까? Something like this. 오늘 춥지요. To say 춥지야, that's more Daegu style word.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's a Daegu, and then in Busan it's 오늘 진짜 춥지요.
So do you ever like, so since you're in Gwangju, do you ever say like any of the 어째서까이, like some of that 허블나게 좋더만요, like that type of stuff, or do you just stick to like 경상도 사투리?
Because I kind of stick to 경상도.
Yeah.
But tell you, this is in one of your questions that you were planning to ask.
Yeah, sure.
That I've met. One time I was called to a dinner. This is after I moved to Gwangju, and I'm not supposed to touch my face, I guess. be careful. And if I cough, here we go. Anyway, I was in a dinner with the president of Korea, Kim Dae-jung, was the president of Korea at the time. And
wait, you were at a dinner with him?
Yes, I was at it was a huge dinner, and there were like 200 people at the dinner. And they were all the business leaders of Gwangju, and City Hall had asked me to be there to answer a question about our school, and he was asking the business leaders how he could help them as president. So the City Hall gave me a script. They said, he's going to ask you, how hard is it running a foreign school in Gwangju? And I was supposed to answer, yes, it's very hard, and something like this. But I had the script in my, and I was waiting for my turn, and the president of Korea looked over at me and he goes, it wasn't in the script. I had nothing to say.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, well, a lot of people are saying that they're getting tired of my Gyeongsangdo dialect. They guess that I've come to learn the Jeollado dialect. And 어떤 사람들이 전라도 사투리 배우러 왔다고 하는데 절대 그거 배우러 안 왔습니다. 제가 나이 많고 이제는 안 들어갑니다. 안 그래도 우리 아이들이 아침마다 옛날 같으면 아빠 오늘 어디 가노? 이렇게 물어봤는데 요새 음에 어디가? 이렇게 물어본다. So I said, 그래서 미치겠어요. And I said that to Korea. And the whole erupted in laughter.
So how much of the stuff that you say is like scripted versus not scripted?
Oh, on the talk shows. To do a talk show, normally they interview you for 2 or 3 hours, take time to interview you beforehand. And so you tell them these stories and then they write them down. So I would guess they're scripted, but they're all from my mind.
Yeah.
Now, for the dramas, they're completely scripted. They're, you have to do everything by the script, no ad lib on the dramas. But, on TV, if I say something, all of a sudden, I can say things that are not on the script. I would guess probably 15% or 20% of the things. Nothing follows the script exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but you get
one of my moments on TV was where I said they asked if I had. The Koreans still talk about this. This is 25 years after I said it. Now it's 24 years since I said it. I was on TV with Ida Doshi.
Oh yeah, the French girl. Yeah.
Yes, and Lee Hong-yeol, who's a famous comedian and show host, and he had a night show. It was kind of like Jay Leno or something. Jay Leno's not on anymore.
Sure.
So we were on the night show, and he asked me, "Have you ever eaten dog?" And I said, "Yes, I've eaten dog," and it was pretty good. Of course, I was just saying this is before I had my dogs over here. So I said, and Ida said, how could you eat dogs? They're the kindest, cutest animals. They're our best friend. I said, Ida, snails are my best friend. Korea loved that, and they still talk about this to this day. So. Oh,
that's funny, man. Have you been in any movies?
Yes, I've been in several movies. One called Deo, about a guy who delivers for a Chinese restaurant, and he tries to impress the girl by learning English from me. And in that movie, I'm kind of a 욕쟁이 아저씨 that teaches English. I'm a university professor that teaches them English. I was on another show called Mock Girls. And Mock Girls flopped at the box office, but it's a cute movie about gangsters at a high school and about girls that make makgeolli for a living. So in this high school. they're girl students in the high school, and they're making makgeolli and coming to school drunk, and I'm the like, what's the I'm not exactly what I was, but I'm like the head of the teachers, the something in charge of the students. I'm like the vice principal.
Yeah.
So we had the principal who was a woman, and then me, and I was yelling at the teachers to get these kids in line. It was a very fun movie.
So is there money in it, or is it not very much when you're doing the TV stuff?
TV dramas, they might pay the big stars a lot of money, but their little stars are not paid all that much. The same with movies. TV shows pay a lot. It depends on what network you're on and what show it is.
Yeah.
So, I was making a handsome living doing that, but actually the biggest money comes in when you do endorsements or commercials.
Okay.
And but they pay in the tens of thousands and maybe even more for big name stars. They'll pay more than that. So, but low level stars, tens of thousands. So.
Interesting. But you've got to be like one of the most recognizable faces in Korea, right?
Oh yes, I can put on a mask and my sunglasses and a hat and walk into a bakery or walk into a grocery store, and the women will say, "Robert Holley, you can take off the mask." So we all know you. So I can go in and they'll still see me behind here, you know.
So the next part of the interview here is where we talked about Korean language. So if you're interested in improving your Korean language skills, this would be a good part to listen to. How about, so Korean language stuff. What kind of suggestions would you have for beginner intermediates and then maybe also for like advanced people?
Oh, that's a hard question. You shouldn't ask me questions like this. Because I've lived here, there's basically one recommendation that I give to everyone. And that's whether they're learning English and they're Korean, or whether they're Americans or other foreigners who are trying to learn. Did I say that right? No, I did not. Whether they're Koreans who are learning English or foreigners who are learning Korean. It's the same bit of advice. The reason I got famous, of course, on television was because he used Busan dialect. And the way I learned dialect is really closely listening to people who used it and mocking what they said, saying it over and over. And for example, my mother-in-law would always say, look at me, and she'll look at my face and go, "Aigoo, pigonanggabe." So pigonanggabe, you know, in typical Korean, pigonanggabayo. But in Busan dialect, pigonanggabe. Gabe instead of gabayo. Yeah. So, and then I would listen to my nephews going around, "Mohano." So I would mock them, "Mohano, ikemoko, what's this?" And I would mock them, listen to it and listen closely and follow everything, including their intonations, and do it over and over and over and use it. Even if you're just looking in the mirror, use it. And because I did that, I was able to mock those intonations right onto television. And I think that's the best way. Of course, if you're studying written words and written things, you know, books, it's a different form of study that you'd engage in. And I've translated legal documents, the different laws. I've had to translate them into English. And so I know how difficult words, if you want to learn grammar, that's a way to learn grammar, is by reading a good Korean book, which is what my manager would always ask me to do. It'd say, read a book. And then it'd also say this: watch Korean Yenin programs and see what people think are funny, and, you know, do what they think are funny. And that's one of the ways I would learn Korean, practice learning Korean. I hate to make this recommendation, especially to you, but when I was a young student studying at Yonsei University, I was wheeled into the emergency room for appendicitis. I had my appendix; they were about to burst, and it was about to burst. And so I got wheeled into the emergency room, and then surgery, and I was saying every word in the book in Korean. and the doctor said to me afterwards, he goes, 한국말 배울 때 영어도 배웠네. Something like that. And on another television show, my manager told me the same advice. He goes, go on this show. I think it would be a big hit if you go on this. Radio Star was the show. Go on there and just say every yoke imaginable. No, just come and, say the word sekiach. Like this. And just say these words. And it'll be a hit. And so I did, and it was a hit. They were a real hit on the show.
Oh, man, that's funny. That is funny.
So, if you want to learn the bad words, but those, I don't really use really bad words, just semi.
Oh, that's funny. That's great.
Well, there are so many good English speakers that it's hard to say who's best and, who's really good. In fact, yesterday someone sent me YouTube, and it was a new guy who I had never seen before. He's a middle-aged guy, had no idea who this guy was, but he was speaking Korean really well. But I'm close with a lot of good Korean speakers, but I wouldn't say they're the best.
Right.
She speaks really well, but she's not the best, and she's lived here forever. Another fellow Texan, Kim Mi-nam, PJ Peters, yes, and Mark Peterson. On TV, I'm really close friends with Sayuri and Chris Johnson. Now, Chris Johnson is not a big name. He's on a lot of the shows that I am on, or I was on. And he's like, if there's anyone who I'd name to be a successor, it would be Chris Johnson, because he knows the ins and outs of Korean humor. A lot of the foreigners on television are not humorous. They think they're humorous. There's one guy, I won't name these guys, but I do not think they're very funny. They're funny for other reasons. Koreans laugh at them for other reasons. Maybe their laugh is funny to Koreans, or the way they look, or their facial expressions. But I don't think they know Korean humor like Chris does. Chris is really good and adept at that. And he's a really good Korean speaker. I'm sure you don't know that name, so go look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, I teach pronunciation to all the missionaries over there. It's like I haven't been in Korea. I haven't lived there for 20 years, right? And I lived there for 2 years. So you can only get to a certain level of Korean proficiency, even with, I've never really stopped studying Korean, but I don't live there, you know what I mean? But there are some people that I really like to study and watch how they speak. Like, you were on a show with a guy named Tyler Rash. Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
I think he's really good. Like, I think that he graduated from Seoul University. Pronunciation's really good, but like the way that he just talks and weaves into speed and grammar and all that stuff, I feel like he's really good. And I feel like that show in general, the Abnormal Summit, I think there's a lot of like younger, pretty good guys there. Who's the German guy? Isn't there some German guy that was kind of around at the same time back in the day with you and Itadoshi and a lot of...
His name is Yi Cham. It used to be Yi Hanu. But then he changed his name to Yi Cham. And he's really good. Now he would speak the Toledo accent, because I believe his wife was from the Toledo area. Maybe not. And maybe I've got that wrong.
Yeah.
But yes, he got involved in politics and then was criticized for various things and activities. And so he's no longer on the scene right now. I don't know what he's doing or where he's hiding. But I was close friends with him as well.
So what are some of the nuances in your mind of Korean humor?
Nuances of Korean humor. Well, they have things they were like about the snail thing. That was, snails were my best friend. The thing about Korean humor is if you listen to it and in my own case, I'm married to a Korean, and my wife is the source of many of my jokes, and she laughs at me, and even if I joke, and I use her in my jokes. And for example, this is one joke on television. They said, I'm always telling them on television how my wife bosses me around, orders me to do the laundry, orders me to do the dishes, orders me to do that, and this and that. And Koreans find that hilarious. It's like, most Korean men would never do what their wife tells them. But at home, everyone knows, actually, the wife is the boss of the home, especially when they're middle-aged like me. They have no leg to stand on in the home. And so that's the way Korean families are. And they know it. And I know this about them. And so I say this. And so one time on TV, I was saying this about my wife, ordering me to do this and that. And I knew my wife could not see this program. But the announcer said to me, and it was a live show. It was live. It was taped live. And she goes, come on, tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. Does your wife really make you do all that? She does a lot of stuff at home too, doesn't she? And I said, well, to tell you the truth, in my mind, these are the 4 things I think of when I see my wife. She's either on the sofa watching television. She's on the sofa putting on makeup watching television. She's laying on the sofa watching television, or she's in our bedroom sleeping, and that's all I ever see her do. and so I said these 4 things. The whole studio erupted in laughter. And one of the comedians, there was a comedian on the front row, and he turned around to me. I was on the back row. He turned around and he goes, how can you say that and go home? And I said, I don't tonight. Everyone knew I'm a Tumar Boo and go home on the weekends.
Oh, that's great. 우리 갈기가 뭐하노? I hope that you picked up some good Korean language skill things there. The next thing we talked about is business. So let's get into it. So you own a school in Gwangju, right?
Yeah.
Are they in session now or no? Is it all online?
We're all online. We were one of the first schools actually to go online. Several of the foreign schools before the Korean schools. This is of course in February. We were already in session because we followed the Western calendar, the American style schooling. Korean schools don't start until March. And so they were wondering what to do. And the foreign schools were saying, we better stop. And so we all agreed, all the foreign schools agreed to stop and to take vacation. We did not take vacation. We went online right immediately as soon as we stopped.
Got it.
So
how many students do you guys have there?
We have gone up and down. Right now we're on a downward trend. We have about 60 students in grades from kindergarten through high school. So smaller classes, but we've been up to 120 students, but the birth rate in Korea is really going down. So
interesting. Are there any other business things that you do besides TV and your school?
No, I just concentrate on the school. I'm not doing television right now, but I have in the past, and I'm concentrating on the schoolwork right now.
Which one is more lucrative in general if you were doing both of them at the same time?
Of course, television is.
Is it really?
Television is lucrative. Our school right now we're having a very hard time because of the low number of students. So it goes up and goes down, it goes up and goes down. But the school television by far is more lucrative.
Is it just because there's no expenses? It's just you, they give you the money. Is that kind of why?
That's one of the things, and the other thing is that I don't have to give my wife what I make on television.
Got it. So as far as family stuff goes, you have kids that live kind of some in the States, some in Korea. How does that work?
I have two sons that live in Bountiful, Utah, and one works for Morgan Stanley, and the other works for UPS. Morgan Stanley, they're working from home right now. UPS is not. So those are my two sons in the States. I have another son in Korea who's useless, but he lives with us some of the time.
Yeah.
Some of the time he's house, but he's like in his 7th year of college. That's why I say he's useless. He's always being on television, and he's been on a lot of shows. He's been on quite a few shows, but I can't ever get him to finish college, and that's what's driving us up the wall.
Are your kids better at Korean or English, or just kind of whatever?
I would say the youngest one, they're about 50-50, English and Korean.
Yeah.
The youngest one knows a lot of Korean nuances that other people don't know.
Yeah.
And he's really good at them. Has a lot of Korean friends. The ones in the States, they also speak Korean quite well. Right. So I would say when they were younger, it was not that case, but now 50-50.
Yeah. What about, so you don't have any grandkids, right? No
grandkids since nobody's married. I hope I don't. They're not married yet, so I hope I don't have any grandkids.
None that you know of, right?
As far as I know, no grandkids.
Got it. All right, so after we talked about business and those types of things, we jumped into favorites. So these are some of Rob's favorite places to eat and favorite places to go.
As for foods, I love budae jjigae and nachi pokum. There are other things, a lot of Americans will say bulgogi is my favorite or kalbi is my favorite, but they don't know there's like 5,000 kinds of bulgogi. So in this area of Korea where I'm at now, which is Gwangju, there's a thing called duck kalbi, and duck kalbi and damyangshik. Damyang is the name of the city near Gwangju, so there's damyangshik, teji kalbi. So those are teji kalbi from Damyang style teji kalbi, and duck kalbi are really good. Anyang bulgogi is a bulgogi from north of Busan. I love that as well. Gwangyang supergui, which I'm sure you're aware of, and it's the fried beef from Gwangyang area. So good. And from Masan, which is next to my wife's hometown, there's Seoksue bulgogi. So, and they're all pretty similar. Actually, Gwangyang supergui and Seoksue bulgogi, they're almost exactly the same. Anyang bulgogi. They're fried between two steel kind of racks over an open flame. So
interesting.
But I like nachi pokum, and many foreigners would get really freaked out by this, but I like raw nachi to san nachi.
Yeah.
Is wiggling around when you eat it.
I'm with you on that. I think it tastes really good. So
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, so we are at the last section here, and this has to do with YouTube. Do you have any interest in doing YouTube?
I do a little bit because people are telling me to do it.
Yeah.
And they say it's the future of broadcasting. A lot of people are saying it. So I have, you failed to ask one of your questions that you previously sent me, like, who are some of the interesting people that I've met? Well, I know everybody in the industry, almost all the major stars I've met and been on TV shows with. And one of my closest friends is Kim Hung-guk. And Kim Hong-guk is a singer who was president of the Korean Singers Association just 2 years ago. And he's one of my closest friends. He's the way I got to know these Buddhist monks. And he's a loud guy about my age, and he loves to drink. But why am I getting off on this tangent? Now, what did you, YouTube. Kim Hong-guk was telling me to start YouTube. He's starting YouTube. And he started actually 2 years ago. But it's the most, I shouldn't say this actually. I don't think he's very good at it. And he's gotten better. He's doing better than he did before. What he did in the past was he had his own variety show, 1 hour on YouTube. No one has the time to sit down and watch a 1 hour variety show with old stars that no one knows the name of.
Yeah.
And that's something, YouTube has to be short and sweet.
So a couple things I can tell you about YouTube stuff. I mean, my channel is relatively small. I've got, I don't know, less than 4,000 people. I started in October. I have 1 million followers on Facebook, so I know a little bit about like how some of that stuff kind of works. And I own an ad agency, so that kind of helps a little bit. But I will say, you know who Mark Peterson is, right? So he started his channel a couple months before mine, and he's up to almost 80,000 subscribers, just like that. And Tyler Rash is kind of funny. He started one that was about painting, like a long time ago. And then a couple weeks ago, he decided he was going to go do YouTube seriously. And he took his 10,000 person channel, and he's up to 50 or 60,000 in literally 2 weeks, like, which is really, really fast. I mean, I look at that stuff and I look at you, who's like, you're kind of the legend and the icon of any foreigner doing anything. And I'm like, man, why isn't this guy, you would kill it.
Yeah. Well, I considered it, and I'm still thinking. I've tried it. In fact, yesterday or 2 days ago, I tried making my first YouTube, and I put it up on my YouTube channel. I do have a YouTube channel, and there are several funny videos or heartwarming videos that you can see there. But I put this video that I took up, and one of my close friends, a younger friend, immediately I said, "What do you think?" He said, take it down. It's awful. Take it down." So and I immediately took it down. And, I know a lot of big stars on Korean television who have tried doing YouTube. The funny thing about YouTube is people who are not big stars get really good at it. And the guys who are on television don't really do it well.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this. And on the other hand, the guys who do YouTube well are really awful when it comes to television.
I will say one thing with YouTube that's easier is you decide everything. You decide what gets cut. You decide what shows. You can prep. You can read. You can, like, that stuff is, I would say it's probably harder one time. You know what I mean? I don't know. I would imagine.
Well, I've thought about doing it. People always say, you got to get content. The contents. Think of your contents, what your contents are going to be.
I would imagine you would just blow up.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah. But I appreciate your time, Rob. I really appreciate it. You're awesome. I'm a huge fan. You're a big hero of mine. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope that you do get on YouTube and make something happen there. And hopefully someday our paths will cross more or something like that. But it's a pleasure to have this moment. So thank you.
Sometime soon. So
seriously.
Great.
Well, cool. Well, I guess that's kind of all I have, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking the time and interviewing me. It was great meeting you.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Talk to you later.